The winter air was brutal, cutting through the layers of rags I had wrapped around myself. My body ached, my fingers stiff, my breath coming out in white clouds as I sat curled in the corner of an alley. The streets had emptied hours ago, people retreating into their warm homes, their comfortable beds, their safe lives. Lives I used to have, lives I used to dream of. Now I had nothing. I stared at the frozen ground, my stomach aching from hunger, my bones stiff from the cold. My hands trembled as I pulled my coat tighter, but it was useless. The wind still found me, slipping through the tears in the fabric, whispering to me that I wouldn't make it through the night. Maybe I didn't want to. I had spent so many years fighting for food, for a warm place to sleep, for the dignity that had been stripped from me the moment I lost everything. I had begged, stolen, done things I never thought I would, just to survive another day. But for what? Another night like this. Another frozen morning where people walked past me like I didn't exist. I gritted my teeth, my breath shaky as I tilted my head towards the sky. Snowflakes drifted down, landing on my face, melting against my skin. The sky was dark, empty, endless, just like my life. Why? I whispered. I had asked that question so many times. Why had God let this happen to me? Why did He take everything from me? My job, my home, my family. Why did He let me suffer while people who had never known hardship walked past me without a second glance? I had prayed once, begged Him to help me, but the streets had only gotten colder. The hunger had only gotten worse. My prayers had gone unanswered, so I stopped. If God existed, He had abandoned me. And if He hadn't, then He was cruel. A shudder racked my body, my limbs numb, my eyelids heavy. The cold wasn't painful anymore. It was comforting, like a lullaby singing me to sleep. Maybe I would wake up somewhere warm. Maybe I wouldn't wake up at all. Either way, I didn't care anymore. I let my eyes close, my body sinking into the frozen ground, and let the night take me. I opened my eyes, but I wasn't in the alley anymore. I sat up quickly, my heart pounding. The cold was gone. The hunger was gone. My body, it felt strong, healthy. But something was wrong. I wasn't in the city. I wasn't anywhere I recognized. The world around me stretched infinitely, vast and endless, yet not empty. A warmth surrounded me, unlike anything I had ever felt before. It wasn't just on my skin, it was inside me, wrapping around my soul like a presence I couldn't understand. Then I realized I wasn't alone. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. A man stood before me. Not just a man. Jesus. I stared at Him, my breath frozen in my chest. He looked nothing like the paintings, nothing like the stories I had heard as a child. He wasn't just a man. He wasn't just light. He was something more, something I couldn't put into words. His presence wasn't just around me. It was inside me, filling the spaces I had long thought were empty, shining into every part of me I had tried to forget. And I hated it. I hated Him. Rage surged through me, hotter than anything I had felt in years. My hands curled into fists, my body trembling, not from fear, not from awe, but from the anger that had lived inside me for so long. "This is a joke, right?" My voice came out hoarse, shaking. "You show up now?" Jesus said nothing. He simply looked at me, and that made it worse. "You let me freeze to death." My voice cracked, the words burning my throat. "You let me suffer for years. You watched while I begged for help. I prayed to you. I asked you for just one chance, and you did nothing." He remained silent, not because he didn't have an answer, but because he was letting me speak. So I did. I let it out, all of it. The nights I had spent starving while rich men threw away their meals. The times I had asked people for help only to be ignored like I was nothing. The betrayal I had felt when I lost my job, my home, my family. The hatred that had festered inside me, growing stronger every time I watched someone walk past me without even seeing me. Tears burned down my face as I took a step toward him, my chest heaving. "You could have saved me. You could have done anything." His gaze never wavered. He didn't flinch, didn't recoil. He just stood there, waiting. Then, finally, he spoke. "I never left you." My body went rigid. I let out a hollow, bitter laugh, shaking my head. "That's a lie. You left me a long time ago." Jesus stepped closer. His voice was steady, filled with something I didn't understand. Not pity, not sorrow, love. "I was with you every moment, even when you thought I wasn't." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream at him, curse him, tell him he was wrong. But the moment he spoke those words, something shifted inside me. Because deep down, I knew he was telling the truth. Memories flashed before my eyes, not the ones I had clung to, the painful ones, but the moments I had ignored. The stranger who had given me his scarf on a freezing night. The old woman who had left food next to me while I slept. The shelter worker who had called me by my name when I thought no one even remembered I had one. All the times I had wanted to give up, but somehow, some way, something had kept me going. That wasn't luck. That wasn't chance. That had been him. Tears blurred my vision as I looked at him, my anger unraveling into something else, something terrifying. Regret. Tears streamed down my face, hot and relentless, carving through the years of resentment I had built up like armor. I wanted to hold on to my anger. I wanted to scream at him, to make him answer for everything he had let me suffer through. But standing here, in his presence, feeling the weight of his words settle into my soul, I knew he had never left me. The memories I had buried came flooding back, each one more painful than the last. The nights I had spent shivering, feeling utterly alone, yet somehow surviving. The days when I had thought about giving up, yet something inside me had whispered, "Keep going." The moments when a stranger's kindness had felt like a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge of despair. All this time, I had believed God had abandoned me, but he had been there in every quiet act of mercy, in every moment I had chosen to keep going when I thought I couldn't. And now I was standing before him, finally seeing the truth I had refused to acknowledge. I swallowed hard, my voice barely more than a whisper. Then why? If you were always there, why did you let me live like that? Why did you let me die like that? Jesus didn't hesitate, because I gave you free will, and you lived by your choices. My stomach twisted. I wanted to reject that answer, to tell him I had never chosen this life, that I had been a victim of circumstances beyond my control. But deep down, I knew that wasn't entirely true. I had made choices. When I lost my job, I could have asked for help, but my pride wouldn't let me. When my family reached out, I could have swallowed my anger, but I pushed them away instead. When doors had opened for me, ways out, second chances, I had ignored them, convinced I had to do things on my own. And as the years passed, I had hardened my heart, blaming God for the suffering I had walked into with my own feet. Jesus wasn't condemning me. He wasn't punishing me. He was telling me the truth, a truth I had spent my entire life running from. I dropped to my knees, the weight of it all crashing down on me at once. I was so angry at you, I choked out. I hated you. His response was immediate, and I loved you anyway. The words broke something inside me. I had spent my whole life resenting God for the things I had lost, for the pain I had endured. But now, sitting before him, I realized something I had never considered. I had blamed him for every bad thing that had happened to me. But I had never once thanked him for the times he had saved me. And now, here I was, no longer homeless, no longer hungry, no longer suffering, and I had a choice. I could cling to my anger, or I could let it go. I knelt before him, my body trembling, not from cold, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the truth pressing down on me. The truth that I had spent my whole life rejecting him. The truth that I had blamed him for my suffering while refusing to see his mercy. The truth that even when I had hated him, he had still loved me. Tears spilled down my face as I looked up at him, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't deserve this. Jesus stepped forward, his gaze never leaving mine. No one does. His words should have felt harsh, but they didn't. They were freeing, because they weren't meant as condemnation. They were meant as an invitation. I had spent my life believing that if God existed, he was cruel, that he had abandoned me to my suffering, that if he had cared, he would have saved me. But now, standing before him, I understood he had been saving me all along. Every moment of kindness I had received, every time I had survived what should have killed me, every time I had felt like I was completely alone. But something had kept me from giving up. That had been him. And now he was offering me something I had never truly known. A place where I belonged. A home. I don't know how to fix everything, I whispered, my throat raw from the emotions that surged through me. I don't know how to change. His answer was simple. You don't have to do it alone. The words struck deep into my soul. For so long, I had convinced myself that I had to survive on my own, that no one would help me, that I couldn't trust anyone, not people, not family, not even God. But here, in His presence, I finally understood the greatest truth of all. I had never been meant to do this alone. I closed my eyes, taking a slow, shaky breath, and for the first time in my life, I let go of the anger, of the bitterness, of the belief that I had to carry everything by myself, and in its place, something new took root. Peace. I don't know how long I knelt there, but when I opened my eyes, the light that surrounded Him seemed even brighter, stronger. I could feel it within me now, not just around me. It wasn't just His presence, it was a part of me. The fear of going back, of being homeless again, of suffering. I realized I wasn't afraid anymore, because for the first time, I knew I would never be alone again. Jesus reached out His hand. Come home. I took it. The next moment, I gasped for air, my lungs filling so suddenly it felt like fire rushing into me. My body ached, my fingers tingling, my chest burning. I was alive. I blinked, trying to focus. I wasn't in the alley anymore. I was in a hospital, the warmth of a thick blanket wrapped around me, my body trembling from something deeper than the cold. A nurse stood nearby, her eyes wide with shock. "You're awake," she breathed. We thought you weren't going to make it." I swallowed hard, my throat dry, my mind still spinning from what had just happened. But I knew I hadn't made it. I had died, and yet here I was, not just breathing, changed. The months that followed weren't easy. I still had to rebuild. I still had to start over. But I wasn't alone anymore. God opened doors I never expected. People came into my life, offering help, not out of pity, but because they saw something in me I had never seen in myself. Hope. I found work, shelter, and for the first time, purpose. Not just in surviving, but in sharing what had happened to me. Because there were others like me. Others who felt forgotten. Others who had convinced themselves that God didn't care. And now I could tell them the truth. That He does. That He always had. That He never left. Not for a single second. One night, as I sat in a warm room, wrapped in a coat someone had gifted me, staring at the meal in front of me, I thought about the man I had been, the one who had died in the cold, the one who had cursed God with his final breath. And I whispered the words I had never thought I would say. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.